Welcome to the Real Estate Majlis podcast, where we'll delve into the latest real estate insights and trends. Whether you're a seasoned investor or a first-time buyer, our podcast is here to provide valuable information and expert advice. This episode is powered by Bayut, the leading property platform in the UAE and proud member of the Dubizo Group. Whether you're buying, selling, or renting, Bayut connects you with real estate options that meet your needs using innovative tools like TrueCheck and Bayut GPT. Whether you're looking for a new home or a reliable platform to advertise your listings, choose Bayut, where you'll find real photos, real prices, and real properties. So welcome to yet another episode of the Real Estate Majlis podcast. And today we're going to talk about short-term rent on the luxury side of the market. So with us today we have Paul Mallee, Managing Director of Maison Privee. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Welcome to the show. And the question that comes in, we know that in short-term rent, usually the affordable real estate is common. How is the luxury market and short-term interplay? Like, do you see a lot of demand for them? Do you see a lot of owners willing to do so?
I certainly do. When I started this business in 2017, it was really with a mind to create a 5-star offering in the vacation rental space. And we saw the opportunity there to provide an alternative accommodation where people might want to stay for maybe more than a night, so slightly longer stays, where they want to have the benefit and the opportunity to perhaps cook for themselves, to be able to have that additional space that comes with having either an apartment or a villa to stay in during their vacation, or during the time where they're on a work assignment, maybe for a few weeks. Staying in a hotel room, irrespective of how nice the hotel room is, becomes a little bit claustrophobic after a few nights, as I think most people who have gone on holidays for a couple of weeks would tend to agree. So very much the opportunity was there to look at addressing that market need, putting together the right portfolio of properties, but also putting together the service offerings to make that stay comfortable and enjoyable for the guests in a very similar way to what they would receive at a 5-star hotel. So putting our team together, we built very much a hospitality-focused organization, bringing together people from luxury hotel experience backgrounds, as well as also the big aviation players who really drive hospitality offerings. And so putting that together with the right properties in the right locations, I think was really the foundation of Maison Privee.
Mm-hmm. And any information on the geography? Where do you cover which areas in Dubai?
So we're in all of the prime areas of the city, and also in Abu Dhabi in a similar way. We focus on the best buildings in those parts of town that are waterfront, or in the downtown area, for example, DIFC area, where we know that there is a demand, either from a corporate guest or from tourists who are looking for that high-end offering. So we're very selective about the units that we take into the portfolio. We make sure that they meet the criteria that we know work in terms of generating the higher yields for the owners that we target to deliver. But also making sure that they provide the guest experience that we know that the market demands. Mm-hmm. And so matching up those things is really important for us as we select the units that we take into the portfolio. And that could be anything from a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment, etc., up to a 6-7 bedroom villa on the Palm. We select those areas that will provide the let's say the attractiveness to the guests who are looking to stay in Dubai for a few nights, a few weeks, or sometimes even a few months.
Yeah, but it's interesting because, again, when we talk about short-term rent, people immediately associate with small units. When you look at demographic, who is renting luxury villas on the Palm, for example? Are you talking about just customers coming from overseas, or you see a demand on the local market as well?
There's actually quite a big mix, Cecilia. So we do see a lot of local traffic. About 30% of our guests are
so people, residents who want to take a villa for a short term weekend or vacation.
Exactly.
Okay.
So staycations.
Staycations, the famous staycations.
Yeah. If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, really, because not a lot of people are in a position to be able to go out and buy a 30 or a 50 million dirham villa. However, they may well be in a position to book that villa and stay in it for a week.
Yeah.
You get to experience that lifestyle, to have that exclusivity, to have that privacy and that space for your staycation or for your time away, which otherwise would be completely inaccessible to most people.
Sure.
So I think that's part of the attractiveness of booking a vacation rental. And if you look at the growth in the market overall over the last number of years, the whole category of vacation rentals has really exploded. It's been north of 10% year-on-year growth internationally in terms of guest preference to stay in a vacation rental versus staying in a hotel. And that's really interesting because it shows that there was a demand, a latent demand for that type of offering in the market, which has only really started to gain traction really in the last number of years. If you look at the big online travel agencies like Booking.com, they are increasingly focusing their advertising on vacation rentals rather than just hotels. And that just shows you that the traffic is there, that the demand is there, that they recognize that vacation rentals are a really important category of the overall accommodation offering internationally. And so we've seen the benefit of that here in Dubai as well.
And you believe the return is similar? So, for whoever is investing on 1 or 2 bedroom, or if they own a luxury property and they want to put on short-term rent, would they see similar ROI?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing really strong returns in our luxury properties. We target 30% increase in annual return.
Net or gross?
This is gross.
Okay.
Sorry, in terms of the return to the owner, we will look at 30% on a net basis.
Sure.
We will look to double the annual income on a gross basis, so that when everything is taken into consideration in terms of the online travel agency fees or our management fee, etc., we're delivering a very strong return. And we are, as I said, selective in terms of the units that we take in, because we want to make sure that we select units that we know will work. For us as a business in Maison Privee, there's no point taking any unit that's not going to deliver a return for the owner, because that also means it's not delivering a return for us. So we assess each property that we are approached about, or that we speak to the owners about, and we determine, based on our experience and knowledge of the market, how well that unit will perform. And we work with the owners then to, in a case where the unit is not already furnished, to help with the interior design, the fit out and finish of the unit, to make sure that it shoots well in photographs and in video content, so that when we advertise it across the various different platforms that we use, people buy with their eyes. So we know what works, and we make sure that we set the units up optimally so that they get the bookings that generate that return for the owners.
Paul, what kind of information and knowledge that owners of properties must know before they getting into this relationship with a management company that does this on their behalf?
We manage a very transparent operation for our owners. So we take them through the full cycle of how everything works. We provide them with full visibility of the bookings that are in their units at any one time. They have access to a live calendar that shows where the bookings are coming from, how long the bookings are for, where, all of the information that they would need to know in relation to their property. But I think one of the most important things that we provide for owners is a hassle-free experience. So they don't need to worry about the property, because they know it's being managed by somebody who's very professional, and they get to experience that with us. And so I think for our owners, it's really about having the confidence. And I think that anybody who's thinking about getting into the vacation rental market with their property, they really should consider who is going to be managing that property. What's their track record? What's their experience? Do they have the right team? And do they provide the right tools to give the insight that the owner of that asset wants to have?
In terms of regulation, do you think we have enough regulation to protect the landlord and the tenant at the same time?
I think the regulations in Dubai have been a fantastic thing, and from the start of our time in the vacation rental space here, there have been very clear regulations in place that protect both the guest and the owner of the property. Every guest that comes and stays with us is registered with the authorities in the same way as when you stay in a hotel. You have to give your passport and your ID. We also manage exactly the same process. So there's full visibility from the authorities' perspective on how that unit is being managed. They understand what they need to understand in relation to it. We as a company are also licensed, fully licensed, and every unit that we have in our portfolio is registered with the authorities as a holiday home, as a vacation rental. So all of these things together provide for both the owners of the assets and the guests a large degree of comfort, because they know that they are being managed in the appropriate way. And it's the same as in case in Abu Dhabi. The same type of regulations are in place, which are only new. We were the first company in the vacation rental space to get a license to do vacation rentals in Abu Dhabi. And again, having that structure, that regulatory structure, is really important and works very well.
Well, this is actually what I was going to bring, because in Abu Dhabi it's slightly different, right? The process? It's
slightly different, but the principles, the fundamentals are the same. And as I said, given that we were the first mover in the market in Abu Dhabi, we did actually work with DCT in terms of putting the regulations together, and helped share our experience of how things worked in Dubai. And I think it's a very effective set of regulations that are in place.
But when you talk about the luxury market, we're talking about catering a different level of experience, right? So what would be a typical differentiation between an Airbnb on a luxury villa and a one-bedroom apartment?
I think the requirements of the guests sometimes are a little bit different, in that you might often have requirements for a private chef to cook for breakfast, lunch, dinner, etc. for the guests in the villas. That's typically something that we see as quite frequent requests. Also, maid services, etc. within the property. Car hires. So if you're going to have your 6-7 bedroom Palm villa, you might want to also have a Rolls Royce parked outside. Or what would they? Certainly the security is very strict on the Palm, and the guests are I think very comforted by that fact. Particularly a lot of the celebrity type clients that we would have, we would have a lot of footballers, etc., coming and staying, and they love that privacy aspect and the security aspect. But I think for us, providing those additional services, the guest relations executives that we have within our team, who meet and greet every single guest, show them around the property, explain how everything works. So, even down to simple things like how to turn on the cooker. If they're staying in an apartment, for example, and they have kids and they want to be able to cook dinner at home or whatever, then making their life straightforward in a new property is a really important aspect of the service that we deliver. But also for the owners, that's a really important feature, because the properties we've got eyes on them all the time, right? So we have our guest relations executives checking the apartments, or checking the villas, understanding the condition, understanding if there are any issues, making sure those issues are addressed in advance of guest arrival, making sure that we do inspections on guest departure. All of that from a landlord property investor perspective, that's really important, because they have the confidence then that things are being looked after.
But the first thing that comes in my mind when I think about short-term rental villas is parties, right? Yeah. So how do you manage, people who take properties that could potentially disturb the neighbor or causing issues that are challenging the regulations and the authorities?
We don't
guidelines,
we don't allow parties.
Is it on your contract? It's part of your terms and conditions.
Okay. It's signed by the guest on arrival. Additionally, because we have an arrivals form where we set out the house rules, etc., which the guest needs to sign. And every guest that stays pays a deposit, and the deposit is at risk if there are any breaches of the house rules. It's really important for us that we have the right types of guests, that we have clientele who don't cause trouble, who don't create difficulties. We as a company don't want to have to deal with any of those kinds of issues, of course, and so we filter guests. If we think that there's going to be a particular issue, then we will deal with that early. And as said, the house rules are a really important part of making sure that there's an agreement in place. Our guest relations executives remind the guests on arrival of their commitment and what they need to do. And so we manage all of that very carefully.
And have you ever had any interesting requests or something worth sharing that was different or unique or problematic?
Well, we do get quite a lot of interesting requests, of course, but nothing that has been undoable or unachievable. I think looking after the needs of the guests is a really important part of what we do, and so we do go above and beyond to make sure that the guests are happy.
So they get almost like a concierge service in addition to the basic operational
yeah, exactly.
day-to-day.
So every guest has an assigned guest relations executive who is their point of contact during their entire stay. So it's about providing that level of personal service, and they have somebody on call to make sure that their needs are addressed. And as I said, it might be something simple like I want to book a supercar for a couple of days.
A restaurant.
We'll help organize it, a restaurant, or as I said, the private chef is particularly popular because when people are at home and they have a family gathering together,
sure.
It's a lovely thing to be able to do, and it's not crazy expensive. It's an alternative to going to a nice restaurant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A question on technology. I mean, technology has transformed hospitality industry. How do you leverage technology to enhance the guest experience and the relationship with landlords as well?
Yeah, look, it's really important. In fact, if you think about it, the vacation rental space in general wouldn't really be possible without leveraging the massive international shop window that the online travel agency platforms provide. So Booking.com, Airbnb, Expedia, etc. All these different platforms give you the opportunity to project to a global market a product that is in demand, but it gives you that access route to a lot of bookings. We deliver about 50% of our bookings direct, actually, which is within the hospitality space an extremely high percentage.
It is.
Hotels would be happy with 20%. So I think that's a very important it's a very important factor in terms of how we get in front of our guests through leveraging platforms like Bayut, for example, where people are increasingly, for staycations, they're looking to the local platforms to see what are the properties that are out there that they can book for a week or 10 days maybe for their staycation. The property management system that we use that helps us control our properties is really important. So it provides visibility for the owners of bookings that are in their units on a live basis, so they'll always see whether or not there's a guest staying in-house, but it also provides us with the operational control in terms of scheduling cleanings, making sure that all of those tasks are managed around maintenance, etc., that might need to be, which we do on behalf of our owners. So the property management system, again, is a very important technology that we leverage both to connect us to the international travel platforms as well as to manage the individual properties on a local basis. The government in Dubai has recently introduced new rules around smart locks, which are being applied to all of the vacation rentals in the city. So, we can provide our guests with the ability to unlock the door using their smartphone. This is a very convenient solution for the guests, and also it helps us from an operations perspective to manage access. And for property owners, that's a very nice attribute.
Yeah.
Where they're happy to know that there isn't a key floating around somewhere, that there's an access code that can be changed through the platform, and so access can be controlled in that way.
What's your outlook over the next 2 years, 3 years for the short-term rental space?
I think the market is going to continue to grow at pace. We've seen very strong growth in the last number of years. The proportion of vacation rentals to hotel rooms in Dubai is still quite modest. About 10% of the available accommodation in Dubai is vacation rentals.
But it hurts the hospitality industry a little bit, doesn't it?
I think it's complementary. Okay. I think that it's an alternative. In fact, if you look at the international space, you'll see that a lot of the big hotel chains are increasingly interested in the vacation rental space. Marriott, for example, set up Marriott Homes and Villas. We were their first partner in the Middle East. And they set up that platform because they recognized that their guests, their clients, their regular customers were increasingly looking for vacation rental options. And so they put together Marriott Homes and Villas in order to address that market. And that has been very successful for them. And it's indicative, I think, of the recognition of vacation rentals as a core part of the accommodation offering internationally, and so true here in Dubai.
But this is across all businesses, right? I mean, a lot of companies are failing to adapt, and they think that no, and they can challenge that this is not right, it shouldn't be this way. But this is what consumer wants. So if you don't leverage that and change, then you're left behind and you're shut down.
Look, I think it's really important to recognize demand, to recognize changes in demand, in whatever sector you might look at. And as an entrepreneur in setting up this business, it was very much part of my thinking around, okay, how do we focus in on the core requirements of guests when they're traveling and make sure we tailor a product that addresses those core needs. And addresses them to a level where we have satisfied returning customers, and that's very much a part of how we operate the business.
Paul, it was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely great to be here. Thank you both very much.
Good luck, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.